we use a lot of AI, and I know you're a big fan of AI, and you're using AI in very interesting ways that I really love. And I always preach that artist formerly known as Prince was saying for the internet when it appeared was use the internet, but don't let internet use you, because it's gonna, steal your creativity, steal your ability for the brain to create neuroplasticity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have these beautiful ways of saying how not to outsource, but to basically use it as a tool. Can you maybe explain how you use AI and your thoughts on artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I think that for me, AI is a tool, just like any other. However, AI can do so much specifically of our thinking and our creative expression. And a hammer can't do that, So a hammer is technology, but it can't do that. And just the same way that we can use a hammer to do good, build beautiful structures, you could go out and hurt someone with a hammer, and it can be used for bad. So similarly, AI to me isn't inherently good or bad, but it is far more dangerous to humans because it's so easy for us to not see that we are outsourcing our thought and our creativity. And for me, and we were at an event the other day that I was talking about this, which is just our consciousness as a human. What is our consciousness? Our consciousness is our sum total of the patterns that we can recognize in reality. So every time we have an expanded consciousness, that has happened because we can now see new patterns in reality that we couldn't previously see. They were always there. The same way that calculus always exists, even though the 2-year-old can't see it or do it, right? And so as our consciousness expands, we can see more potential. And in the process of that happening, our neurology is rewiring. We're creating new neural pathways. We're creating entirely new neural networks in our brain, new patterns of electrical impulses. So the expansion of our consciousness comes in parallel, synonymously, with new neural networks forming inside of ourselves. But if we are utilizing AI to outsource our creativity so that it is doing the process of putting together those patterns, we don't form the new neural networks. We might get the information, but we won't be able to store the information. We won't be able to recall the information, and we won't have the new patterns ingrained in our mind, which means that we won't have actually expanded our consciousness. We have outsourced our consciousness at that point to AI. And I think that that is a very dangerous trap to fall into. And it is one that I speak about so openly because learning how to use the technology well to amplify our creativity as humans, therefore to amplify our collective consciousness, that potential is massive.
Massive, right. But there's also great danger.
There's great danger
if we don't know how to use it.
Right, exactly.
Your fascia, we know it scientifically. It has a brain called an interstitium. And that fascia has sensory processing. Your brain processes bits of information. Like it can only process a certain amount of information, but your fascia is out there like a field, and it's processing the birds and the pressure and the heat changes and the noises and the lights, and it has hundreds of millions of times more processing than your brain even does. And this organ called the interstitium inside the fascia, which is the brain of the body, the way I see it is the brain of the body, is infinitely more intelligent. Your body has the intelligence. Like your brain gets caught up in stupid stuff. Like it has a racing thought and it can't solve it. So it keeps trying to solve it. And it keeps presenting that racing thought without a resolution. That's not highly intelligent, to be honest with you. From a computing logistics standpoint, that's actually a simple thing, like a processor just keeps trying to process.
Reinforce the problem over and over
the command. It's like it's got a command, doesn't understand it, just keeps running it. But your fascia, your body, when you clear it out, your brain all of a sudden can process or see the answer to the problem. But you can only stimulate your brain so much. And when you stimulate your brain to a point where it can no longer accept the stimulation, then that's the maximum bandwidth or horsepower that you can use to process.
Mhm.
But when you clear out your fascia and reduce the tension or the stored energy, which is called trauma, from your body, you have that much more sensory processing capability. And sensory processing just doesn't mean the way I feel. It means the way I absorb information and process it from the environment. Everything that you need to solve in your life, everything that you need to do to perform, to manifest, is right there.
Right here and right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of being able to access it. That's where the issue is.
When you are sleeping 6 hours consistently in midlife, your risk of experiencing dementia in later life increases by 30%. Okay, so, you're wanting to be all around longevity, and it is very, very clear that sleep is not just important, but imperative.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of us like to think, oh, what does it matter? Just a few nights of, I'll catch up on sleep later. I just need to get through my tasks today. I'm in a flow state, staying up, it's 11 p.m. and your creative ideas are bouncing. Trust me, because I get in this state too. It's not only long-term sleep deprivation which leads to these illnesses, even just after one night of sleeping 4 to 6 hours, which I'm sure many of your community do, many founders do, and I even do it sometimes, the sleep queen, your inflammation, as indicated by biomarkers, interleukin-6 and reactive C protein, they will increase up to 40% after just one night of insufficient sleep. Right? Why is inflammation a problem? When your body is inflamed, it leads to the host of other illnesses. This is what stiffens the arteries. This is why cardiovascular disease and short sleep have such a strong correlation. It also alters the brain's ability to clean itself. Sleep, that is when the brain's clearance of beta amyloid, a neurotoxin, that occurs because the brain doesn't have a lymphatic system like the other organs, right? It has a glymphatic system, and only during the night, during sleep, do those channels open in that glymphatic system, and can we essentially wash away the neurotoxin, which is beta amyloid. Now, especially if you are concerned with cognitive performance and you're looking to master cognitive performance, it's really, really important to understand that sleep is your best friend in this process. When you are sleeping insufficiently, you will have a buildup of beta amyloid, which long-term, as we've just learnt, contributes to dementia and Alzheimer's disease. But even after just one night of insufficient sleep, beta amyloid can increase by up to 30%.
So just one night of irregular sleep you get.
Right, after insufficient sleep, which is going to contribute to brain fog, memory loss, impaired mental clarity. That's going to mean you're getting up the next day trying to lead a team or trying to respond to an email, and you are inefficient and effective. Productivity can decline by up to 29% when you are having insufficient sleep versus not.
What happens then to emotional regulation, to amygdala and those type of parts of the brain?
Yeah, so, mental health, this is something that I'm extremely passionate about. I've had a very close journey with mental health. And to understand that long-term insomniacs, or those who aren't sleeping enough, they are 10 times more likely to have depression and 17 times more likely to have an anxiety disorder. That's long-term. But even after just one night of insufficient sleep, cortisol, our primary stress hormone that makes us feel anxious, wired, unable to switch off, that can increase by up to 37%. The amygdala, which detects fear and alerts us to danger, reactivity of the amygdala can increase by 60% after just one night of insufficient sleep. And so you feel restless, you feel anxious, you feel jittery. Every little thing becomes a problem. Imagine if you're trying to lead a team. Imagine if your coworker has a big problem that they need your support with, and you're in this very catastrophic state.
If you have anxiety, for instance, you're probably deficient in magnesium. Anytime anyone's around me and they're like having an anxiety attack, I'm like, here, let me just go into my bag and give you some magnesium, and it will settle the nervous system down. So I take magnesium glycinate at night because it's calming, and I take magnesium threonate, which is the only type of magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier, and it helps with focus. So I'll take that in the morning for the day. And, you know, magnesium is almost every single function in your body needs it. So like I said, if you're deficient in that, you're not going to feel right, you know? And usually when someone has anxiety, magnesium deficiency, especially in America, I don't know about Bali because it's different energy here, but in America, I mean, you know, everybody's deficient in everything. And that's why I feel like so many people are just lost in the sauce, you know?
So they feel a bit more lost mentally as well.
Oh, yeah.
So what other nootropics or like a brain hacks you get in your body?
So phosphatidylserine. I have so much serine. I have so much trouble saying that. I call it PS. But it's, yes, phosphatidylserine. You know what I'm talking about? Yes. So I love that supplement. It's a brain booster. It really, really helps. You know, I've been taking that now for about a year.
Yeah, because you do so many podcasts, you do so many events, and then so many businesses. You have so you got to stay
focused.
Yeah.
Got to stay focused. Yes, absolutely. You know what I think is important too? Probiotics. You know, probiotics, prebiotics. I mean, you have to have gut health. Your gut basically controls
brain, isn't it?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So ASICs between those two will balance each other.
Absolutely.
Out, right?
Absolutely. And I discovered Omnibiotic maybe 2 years ago, and they have different types of probiotics. And so, especially when I'm traveling, like I have a huge bag of my Hetox, right? And that is specifically a probiotic that helps detox your liver. And, you know, when you're flying and when you're going to another country, and, you know, my microbiome is not used to Bali. So I'm going to need more support because I'm ingesting all, you know, different things. So it really helps support that. You know, they also have stress probiotics where I take specifically at certain times in my cycle, you know, because I get women, you know, we go through our cycles and we get emotional. I've noticed that taking that stress probiotic during specific times really helps my stress lower. So I really find it's important for people to take it. Saccharomyces boulardii, which combats candida if someone has candida overgrowth. I mean, we all have candida, but some people, you know, overgrowth, it gets very bad.
So glad that you mentioned As boulardii. There is a fact that As boulardii was invented and discovered here in Bali.
Really?
By extract from mangosteen and lychee fruit by this boulardii scientist, which was Italian back in 70s.
Really?
And it's known to be one of the best bacteria for a microbiome, for gut health, right?
Yes, yes.
And it's just here. So when you eat mangosteen and lychee, which grows here naturally, if you go to New York and buy it, you probably pay 100 times more here.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing what you can get from the nature here. So thank you so much for mentioning As boulardii bacteria.
Yes. And another supplement that I want to touch on is methylene blue.
Oh,
yeah.
Good stuff.
Yes, I know. Amazing. I mean, amazing for the brain. Just the clarity after I take it is wild. And it used to be a cure for malaria, right? Or a treatment for malaria.
Well, I feel that how it's found is it was a fabric dye. They used to, you know, color the fabrics for the shirts and things with methylene blue. And then they found the different benefits. And there has been some studies shown, but there's still no kind of a long-term use consequences because some people are now finding that your brain actually becomes blue after a while. because of the dye, right?
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. I gotta
So,
look into that.
I
That's
mean,
interesting.
Here in Bali, we have these, longevity club parties, and sometimes, you get welcome drink, which is like blue, and it's like, what is going on here?
Amazing.
It's just.
You can stack that too with red light therapy, oxygen therapy too.
Mhm.
I mean, that's another one of the things that I find
Oxygen
the
therapy,
most.
right?
Yes, hyperbaric oxygen chambers specifically. So I actually have one at home. And, a lot of us go through our lives and we have trauma to our brains. I mean, even going through the birth canal, that's still a trauma to your brain. Getting hit in the head or just falling or something, trauma to your brain. So you might never know that you have blood flow restrictions some places in your brain that could be affecting the way that you are. I mean, a lot of people act certain ways because it's a hardware problem.
Right,
it's a blood flow problem.
So you feel like there's this default mode network that people are, on a daily basis in these wire circuits. And this circuitry, after a while, prevents the oxygen from the flow, right? So when you go into hyperbaric, you kind of have a more blood flow,
yes, it
more
pushes
circulation,
blood,
pushes
blood and oxygen to your brain to where it's not getting the flow. So they've literally done studies of TBIs. I mean, Dr. Daniel Amen, I've worked with him for a couple times, and he's the doctor for the NFL in America. And he's done over, I think at this point, 350,000 brain scans of all, like around the entire world. And he's seeing in one of his most things that he recommends is hyperbaric oxygen for that. And they see, I mean, he'll scan a brain after they've done sessions in the hyperbaric, whereas before they were having restrictions in blood flow in so many different places. And now their brain everywhere, they're getting all the blood flow and oxygen that they need in their brain, and it shows up in these scans. I would have to say another one is neurofeedback, specifically Neuroptimal, which is a different type of brain training. So it's really brain training. Neurofeedback, they brain map you. They find out what is kind of, infrequent and not going perfectly in your brain. And then they will feed you frequencies to raise certain ones or lower other ones. That's neurofeedback. Now, I found a different company. It's called Neuroptimal. And this is just basically like putting a mirror up to your brain. It's showing your brain, hey, this isn't working. This isn't working. Fix, 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 fix. Because if you're unaware of an issue, you can't fix it. So if you're sitting there and your brain's looking at itself, it's fixing itself in real time. And that's a beautiful, beautiful modality that, I actually bought a system, and I will plug myself in. You put electrodes on your head and listen to 33 minutes of music. You'll hear skips, pauses, and interrupts. And that's your brain basically talking to itself. And so that helps with focus, anxiety. I mean, people come out of it crying because it brings up emotion that people haven't processed. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to kind of center yourself. So that's one that I will always, always probably go back to.
So do you feel there's a bridge between, balancing your circadian rhythm, getting the nutrients and everything to support your inner work, right? You mentioned trauma, stressors that are embedded in the muscle memory.
Yes.
Do you feel like that connection of nurturing our body supports the neurochemistry, and we can see then in these brain waves of the tools that you're using? How do you feel that balance between these two, like emotional, physical, and mental, comes together?
Yes. I love this question. I always talk about this. I feel like mind, body, soul.
Right.
You have to touch each one if you want to be the most optimized that you can be. I mean, your body, right? Think about if you got a knee injury and you're walking around and your knee hurts. That's going to affect the way you feel mentally. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. And then that's taking away
myself.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. So it's almost like we have a certain amount of capacity every day, right? Our brain has a certain amount of capacity. Our bodies have a certain amount of capacity. So if we're not healthy, whole, and optimized in our physical body, then it's taking away that brain capacity, our mind capacity, our magic. It's kind of just pulling right from us. So I really feel like you have to support the body. First and freaking foremost, you have to support this vessel, because if you are walking around in pain, toxic, it's going to block all of it, all of it.
you started to work more on the brain health and more on like the brain longevity. And I've seen some of your videos about these specific four pillars. Can you maybe tell us more about how you see brain longevity differently now after working with so many experts in that field?
Yes, just a few years ago, I met a psychologist in the village where I live, and she was proposing to the elderly people of the village a format based on an American studies, which is called brain longevity therapy. And I was very interested about learning a bit more about that. So I decided to study together her for a year. And I found out that the 4 pillars of this format are nearly exactly the same as we've been proposing on our channel for years.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, the only pillar that I was not really expert in was about the meditation they were using, because they were using Kundalini Yoga Kriya, which is called Kirtan Kriya. They use Kirtan Kriya, which has been studied by the researcher in the United States for about 15 years, and they found out that if you repeat this mantra every day, you really get your telomere longer and stronger, and this is a good way to prevent Alzheimer's disease, which is an amazing discovery.
So they were like measuring telomere as a biomarker to prevent neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and stuff. So it's fascinating. So telomeres has been known as this, especially ends of telomeres can define whether someone will have a mental clarity or will die sooner because of the brain functions and circuitry in the brain. So they discovered certain types of meditation that you say it's called Kirtan Kriya, that similar to transcendental meditation, they chant these mantras over and over again.
Exactly.
And then the brain becomes coherent in this resonance, and then it fires and wires different synapses.
This Kriya is a real good exercise for the brain, because it combines, as you said, chanting and visualization, because in the same time that you are chanting, you have to visualize a light coming through your brain and going out from your third eye, which is very difficult. Chanting and visualizing in the same time, and also you have to
use the mudras, right?
Use the mudra.
The mudras and another one. Yeah.
And there's also a song that you can listen to. If you can connect on internet, you can do it even on your own.
There are affirmations that they also sometimes do, right?
Yeah. So, no, you have to chant Satanama. And using your tongue and your part of this mouth in a special way, because they studied that if you chant in this way, you are going to press some acupuncture points on your mouth that is going to stimulate the brain at the same time. So these movements, this chanting, all at the same time for 12 minutes a day, which is very short time, has been demonstrated scientifically that improves your memory and prevents the risk of Alzheimer's disease, which is amazing.
It's amazing that it took us 10,000 years to understand that, Hindus and Buddhists were onto something good. It took us so long to find the EEG device to scan the brains.
But sorry, I have to be more precise, because this study has been conducted on Kirtan Kriya, but in order to have this effect, you have to combine with the other 3 pillars of the method, which is good nutrition. Plant-based nutrition is the favorite one, and social activity, which they call spiritual fitness, because you have to know how to go out with your friends, how to discuss with people, how to not to stay home, not to stay in front of the screen. It's a lot of rules you're supposed to respect in order to prevent your health. And exercise like yoga or any other kind of exercise is good. So meditation with Kirtan Kriya, good nutrition, plant-based nutrition, socialize regularly, and exercise. If you combine these 4 pillars according to the method, you will live not only longer but much better.
We are moving somewhere very far with our biology, and you see a very huge trend for now. And I think this is because this happening not just because it's trendy or everyone's want to be suddenly healthy, but the amount of information we are receiving today through the devices, through the outside world, our brain never used to receive before. Even remember 15 years ago, this amount of information that you receive now, 15 years ago, maybe we receive it in 1 month, right? All these new things. Today you scroll, you can learn like literally
sensory overload.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we subconsciously, we feel that we are not catching up with that. That's why maybe so many people right now having so much burnout and depression, because all this flood of information that we are receiving is just overwhelming. And that's why if we're not gonna follow health rules, if we're not gonna upgrade ourselves in the sense of biohacking, we're just gonna burn out very fast in this modern environment when you cannot catch up with all this information coming through. And we are channels. We are, as a human beings, we are energetic beings. We are channeling energy, and this energy becoming more and more and more overwhelming. And we need to be strong for that. And for that, we need to train our physique to be physically strong, to be mentally strong. Our thinking, the way we feel about ourselves, our thoughts, very much depends on our biology. Because if you are sick, if you feel discomfort inside of your body, then brain generating some sort of thoughts that are not very beneficial, and then all life become not so good, because everything comes out of the thought, all these ideas. You and I also, we were thought of our parents somewhere in the past. So this is like a base, and to change that, we need to follow healthy habits. And I think this is very important, to have a community around that, the people support each other, not for going out drinking alcohol or do some things that are destructive, but to do opposite, to support for the growth, to support for the purposeful good life. So this is what we're gonna do.
What I really love about your work, and I admire where you share this in invisible toxins, how bad they could be, and how implementing connection between mind, body, and soul and spirit is so intrinsically motivating to help us go through it.
Well, the power of the mind, right? I mean, I don't even think we can say it's woo-woo, because a lot of medical pharmaceutical testings, they factor in a
The placebo effect, of course.
And so, may I tell my placebo story?
Please.
Okay.
We love placebo stories.
Okay. Well, I also used to work for many years. I don't know if you've ever heard of, I worked with Dr. Joe Dispenza for many years.
We love those.
Yeah. So, anyways, as you know, he has a book called The Placebo Effect. So I had just read this book. So one of the issues my son was having, so he was probably, he was in like grade 6, 7. And he was passing out at school. So I'd get a call and said, your son is in the emergency room. And I'd be like, what? And they'd had an ambulance, took my son to the hospital, and there was something wrong with his heart. And they did these like EKGs, and it took a while to figure out what was going on. And these episodes continued to happen to the point where the school said, I'm sorry, but until you figure this out, we can't have your son in school, because it's too stressful for us, these calling an ambulance. And I mean, we were stressed and everything. And the episodes were getting, more frequent, once a week. And so I have to say, Matisse, close your ears, okay? Because he doesn't know this. So anyway, so finally they came up with a diagnosis at the hospital, and so we were going to have this surgery. So he did all the pre-surgery. He goes downstairs. I take him, accompanying him to the surgical room. So he's off in the surgery. I'm waiting in the room. 3-4 hours go by. I pick him up. He's very sick, has all this reaction from the anesthesia, and it was very dramatic. And then the head of the hospital, the surgeon and the cardiologist asked to see me privately. So they take me to this room and they said, you know, I'm very sorry to tell you good news and bad news, but, you know, we started the surgery on your son and we realized that the diagnosis was wrong.
Wow.
And what we thought we were going to fix was fine. So, you know, we stopped the surgery or whatever. And I was just like, you just put my son through hell for nothing, you know, like, you know, the anesthetic, the stress and everything. And I was like, you know, quite furious. And then I remembered, because I had just finished reading this book. And I said, you know what you guys are going to do? I said, all of you from medical school have learned about the placebo effect and the power of the mind. And I said, each of you are going to take a moment during the day. I said, you're going to walk into that room. You're going to look my son in the eye and you're going to say, the surgery was a success. We fixed the problem and it will never happen again. And they were like, that's a bit strange or whatever. And they talked amongst themselves and they said, okay. And that's what they did. And it's been 9 years and my son has never had that episode again. And we've been back to the hospital and his EKGs are normal. So,
placebo.
yeah. So, I mean, there is something to be said, you know, our mind, you know, has incredible control over the body. And I don't want to give anybody false hope and I don't want to be woo woo, but it is a piece of the puzzle, you know, and as you know, our thoughts, you know, our thoughts actually create chemistry in our body. And that's either healing chemistry or disease chemistry, right? And
Psychosomatic health.
Psychosomatic.
What we think, what Joe beautifully explains, and what he actually measures. He uses neurofeedbacks and then biomarkers as brain images, and he just feels like woo-woo, but it's all scientifically backed, and there's thousands of people just going out, throwing their wheelchairs on the stage.
Yeah, I mean, we're not
It's just
saying to throw away
fantastic.
your medicine and throw away your protocols, but you know, if you're doing all these things and you know the holistic approach and natural approach, and you know, and your mind is like you know toxic and you don't believe it and you're negative and getting angry and everything, you know, chances are you're not gonna heal as fast or heal at all.
So you're talking about this balance between mind, body, and spirit. It's the importance of placebo and just being in our inherited balance. If you go into extreme, universe is gonna kick you back, right? So important to do that. Thank you so much for sharing this amazing story.